Let's pause for a minute to talk about Anchor by Spotify. Anchor is an easy to use, one stop shop to create and host your podcast. When we started making Sleeping with the Numbers, we used other hosts first that forced us to manually upload to Apple Music, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. But with Anchor, you simply upload to a single spot and it distributes it automatically to all of these locations. But that isn't all. With Anchor, you can easily record, edit, and even add music directly from Spotify to your podcast to make it sound even better. So if you've been waiting around to create a podcast, wait no longer, because Anchor by Spotify makes it extremely easy to do. Anchor is completely free and can be used by downloading the mobile app on iOS or Android, or even right from their website, anchor.fm. Make an account today and get podcasting.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster.
All right, hey everyone, welcome to another Sleeping with the Numbers podcast. We're doing a fantasy episode today because it's Thursday. We'll call it Fantasy Friday because that's when it will come out. But Dylan and Pat here, we're going to be, answering some of the tougher questions here going into the playoff weeks. And to kind of kick it off here, there's a lot of news. There's a lot of news that isn't good, but some of it really good. So I'll start with the great news, the fantastic news. Urban Meyer is finally fired and out as a Jaguars head coach. This is long overdue. I think it should have been done way sooner, but they wanted to feel like they didn't make the wrong choice in hiring him. But I can't think of any positives they've had bringing him in. If anything, I think it's only hindered Trevor Lawrence's progression as an NFL quarterback. Any good things you can think about Urban here, Pat?
I mean, I think he's just a winner, and that I think his coaching staff's a bunch of losers, and I think that, the Jaguars are just going to keep losing because they just got rid of a winner, and that's my only thought.
Yeah, if they do lose to Houston, at least they'll have that to kind of back up his claim. But I don't think he should have another coaching job, especially in the NFL. In college, I personally, it might just be because I'm a Penn State fan, but I didn't think he was a great college coach either. I think their recruiting and talent was more than enough to get them all of those wins. I don't think he's ever outcoached anyone. And I don't believe he would be able to go to another college team that isn't already a top team and do anything with them. Like if he went to a bottom tier team, he's not bringing them up. So other news here, a lot of COVID related news here. I'm only going to read through the fantasy relevant players here. So if I'm going through here, Cleveland, they got hit pretty hard. Baker on the COVID list, Austin Hooper, Jarvis Landry, David Njoku. He was there for a while as well. I think he's also injured because Hooper was coming in for him anyways. Dallas, Cedric Wilson, not a terrible hit. Looking through Detroit, Jamal Williams is injured. What else we got? Kansas City, the Chris Jones one is I think an important one for tonight's game because the Kansas City Chiefs defense has been just on fire. I believe they've won 6 in a row or something like that. And honestly, a lot of that is due to their defense just not allowing, double-digit points for quite a few of these weeks. So with tonight's game against the Chargers, him being out, I think that provides quite a big opportunity for the Chargers. And we'll get into them in another episode. The Rams, they have the most interesting COVID outbreak because, as a lot of you probably know, Higbee got a quote unquote positive test like right before game time, and he wasn't able to play. It then comes out that is a false positive that happened, so he kind of sat out for no reason, which makes this all the more confusing because now they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 players on the COVID list at the moment. And they seem to have an actual breakout, but still Higbee's positive test was a false positive. So issues coming for the Rams possibly if all of those are accurate as well. Dolphins, their running back room got hit pretty hard. Philip Lindsay's going to be likely out. Ahmed Gaskin, all likely out. They went and signed another running back to come in and play. I mean, Pat, do you want any part of that run game that isn't Myles Gaskin?
I mean, I even have Myles Gaskin on my team, and he's way down in the totem pole in terms of, am I excited to play him when the team's healthy? So I'm not touching that team anyways, regardless of if they're healthy or not. But especially with picking up a guy off the street, which I don't even know who they picked up. So correct me and help me find this person's name because I missed that. But I wouldn't risk it anyways because the Dolphins' offense just isn't super great outside of Jalen Waddle and Gesicki.
Yeah, and you brought up the other name, Waddle, just added to the COVID list today. So they have a fantastic matchup here. They have they're going up against the Jets, which should be a quote unquote easy win. But if their whole starting lineup is just not out there, does this give the Jets a chance? And again, we'll talk about this a little bit later in the actual betting episode, but they picked up. Well, they signed Dexter Williams to from the practice squad. I'm sorry, to the practice squad. There's a running back there.
It says they promoted Duke Johnson. I take it back. Duke Johnson, when he played for the Browns, had very random good games. I am slightly interested.
Okay,
because he was like the prelude to Kareem Hunt that he never really had the opportunity. So if you really have to, I would consider it, but he's still not my recommendation for somebody to go snag off the waiver wire. I don't think it's going to be a great choice, but I think he's going to have an opportunity. He was a good pass catching back in Cleveland.
Yeah, so maybe a desperation play for deeper leagues and possibly a good DFS pick there. He should get a decent amount of work. You just said he's involved in the passing game, kind of what he's known for. DraftKings is full point PPR. And he's probably super cheap. I will have to look at how much he is, but I wouldn't. There's no way he's over $3,000. I'm going to confirm that right now. But I would be very surprised if Duke Johnson is any more expensive than that, especially because, these, like we talked about before, the prices are set for these players on Monday before the Monday night game. So it's likely it's not updated. Duke Johnson isn't. What did I just do? Is this? Oh, I'm looking. I hit the Saturday games. That's why he wasn't showing up. So for the flex, Duke. If I could spell his name right. Wow. Okay, so he's $4,000. For a possible starting running back, he is more than worth that risk in DFS.
Yeah, so this is going back to actually even when he played for Houston last year. His average catch out of the backfield was over 8 yards every season he's played.
Wow. Wow. Even in where was he? Houston.
Yeah, 8.9 last year, 9.3 the year before. His highest was 2016, 9.7. And his longest catch last year was 48 yards. He only has one touchdown, but if you're, like you said, PPR, it's definitely worth checking out for sure.
How many, is there a receptions per game stat for him?
I got to dig deeper.
Okay. Yeah, because, if he has just a high floor, if he can catch 5 passes, that's not terrible. He's not going to kill your team, He'll at least get you something. But that's mostly it in terms of fantasy relevant players that are, at risk of missing this week. So let's get into our question of the day. And that is, a lot of leagues have their playoffs started or, they're a week away. So, Pat, do you do anything differently, either A, leading up to playoffs or while you're in playoffs? Any strategies you use to get you to the championship?
I don't necessarily change. I think my main thing is I'm a little less risky during the season. I'm usually one of the highest people in our league in terms of transaction numbers. Actually, in the league that we're in, you beat me by, you had 39, I had 29, but everybody else is under 25. But we also had some very separate issues regarding, health of our team. But usually in terms of playoffs, I try to avoid messing up the team at all, because at this point in time, people who aren't in playoffs anymore really aren't dropping anybody. No one's making those mistakes. You can't capitalize on picking up random guys like Cordero Patterson, who is just sitting there. Those guys don't exist anymore. So for me, the big thing is really trying to focus on, instead of trying to do like high ceiling, high potential players, I'm trying to make consistent plays, because you don't know what's going to happen. And there's no. So I had to go and pick up Ben Roethlisberger, and that's a horrible decision for any other week. But to me, I'm thinking to myself, I would rather get a guy like Ben, because I know Ben's probably going to get 15 to 20 points as long as he doesn't shit the bed, instead of a guy like Jimmy Garoppolo or Taylor Heineke or Justin Fields, any of these other guys that are more hit or miss. When in reality, they have a higher projection than Ben, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to take the points. And I mean, I don't know if you agree with that strategy, but that's how I've handled it, and it works out for the most part.
And so for me, for that point, I mostly agree. The only time I would do like some desperation plays is, I don't want to focus too much on like projected points and all that, because a lot of it's a lot of nonsense. But if I look at a team and my opponent has a lot better players than me, I think in my mind, I have to go and take that risk. I got to go and take those guys with the higher ceilings, just to see what happens. For example, I have Rashard Penny sitting on my bench here, Pat. I just picked him up, and in my mind, he is boom bust, like the definition of boom bust, usually because of injury. But he could be a top 15 running back this week if he gets all of the work. I know it's a tougher matchup against the Rams, but James Conner had a great game against them, and a lot of that was in the passing game. So if Penny gets all of that work, I think he has a potential at a very high ceiling there. So right now, we're playing each other this week in playoffs. So I have a 9-point quote advantage in terms of projections, but I don't trust that at all. I'm just going to read up, our matchup here. So I have Mahomes, you have Allen. I think I would rather have Allen, even off of that ankle injury or sprained ankle that's going on there. I have Javonte, you have Lenny. Lenny's looked fantastic. I don't expect anything different from him. So I would rather have him. Najee or Kenneth Gainwell, of course, I'd rather have Najee. Higgins, Cooks, that one's super close to me. And they're projected very similar in that 12-point range. Lamb and Diggs, another really good one. But I like that you have the Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs stack. And to stack it even further, you have Knox. I have Kelsey, and in theory, Kelsey should be better than Knox, but Kelsey's been a bit of a letdown. So again, I can't trust these projected points, because a lot of the time that's all they are. They're just projections. All you can do is predict the best you can. But there is always risk with pretty much every player. Renfro is probably my safest player. I don't know how that happened, but he's in any terms of or any scoring of PPR of any sort, he's been pretty good. So even though I try not to get caught up in the projections, because I know it's extremely possible for pretty much all of your players to go off. I'm going to include Justin Tucker in that. He could get 15 points as a kicker. So for me, it depends on my situation. I feel comfortable playing high floor plays at the moment, but if Mahomes and Kelsey don't perform tonight, I might have to take a risk and throw in some higher ceiling guys.
Yeah, and I think going back to what I said, you just named off one of the matchups, and it made me realize that I had not updated my lineup for the guys who aren't playing yet this week, so I need to do that before tonight's game. And I'm gonna throw Keenan Allen in there instead of Brandon Cooks. And my logic is, Brandon Cooks obviously has the better matchup, and my thought is that Jacksonville's so bad, Houston should not have to do too much offensive firepower. And in the past, since week 8, he's only gotten double digits 3 times. With Keenan Allen, he is way more consistent than Brandon Cooks in that offense. Since week 8, he has hit double digits every time. So I think tonight's game against the Chiefs are going to be a little bit more high scoring. Even though the Chiefs have a higher defensive ranking against wide receivers, I don't really care. I don't trust the Texans. And that's another thing, and especially the NFL app, they give you these matchups, and a lot of the times it's not relevant.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't really show the strength of schedule or anything. It's just straight off points. So when I look at a team, for example, like Brandon Cooks playing the Jaguars, it's like, well, that's a great matchup. And then I see Darnell Mooney playing the Vikings. I don't think Darnell Mooney's going to get more points because the Bears suck. Like, that doesn't mean it's a guaranteed increase in points.
And then my little strategy I do here, if you don't have a defense that is an every week starter, and there's very few defenses that are that. So if you're streaming defenses going into playoffs, I like stacking 2 or 3 defenses on my bench based on the matchups. Keep them away from your opponent and then swap them as the weeks go on, and hopefully you progress through the playoffs. It's just a nice way to not have to worry about defenses going through the playoffs. You can focus elsewhere, and it also could harm your opponent. You know, if they have a bad matchup with their defense, they can't pick up, you know, another good team because you have them all. And I'm not saying fill your entire bench or anything, but it's nice to have that rotation of defenses while you're working through playoffs. Let's jump into these starter sit questions. We're going to go into on the Reddit. We're going to start with the quarterback position. Scrolling down here, of these 3, pick one: Joe Burrow, Justin Fields, Jimmy Garoppolo. This feels very close in my mind. I understand that Justin Fields has been playing well in terms of fantasy, but I just have such a hard time starting him. Jimmy has a great matchup here against the Atlanta Falcons. They give up the 2nd most points to the quarterback position. Debo should be another week healthier. Kittle has come to life. So that only helps Jimmy Garoppolo, who has, you know, kind of silently been pretty good. In the past 2 weeks, he's put up 20.14 and 17.96. He had a down game against Minnesota where he only put up 12.2, but I believe that's a game they didn't really need him. So Jimmy is a decent option there. And then Joe Burrow, who do they play? Do they play the Raiders?
Denver.
No, that's Denver. Okay, so very tough matchup for him. Denver's defense is quite good. Oh boy, Jamar Chase had a good game last week. T. Higgins, I like. That's a tough one there. So I think if you're playing safe, I think Jimmy Garoppolo might be the move there. If you need ceiling, man, I think it is Justin Fields. Minnesota giving up the 4th most points to the quarterback position, 2nd in the past 4 weeks. And like I said, he's been playing decently well. He has legs, he can move. Put up 21.36 last week against a very tough Green Bay Packers defense. So ceiling, I'd go Fields. Floor, I'd go Jimmy.
I think regardless, I'm doing Jimmy because what I'm looking at is Atlanta Falcons stats. Passing yards against per game, they're 21st. And sacks, they're 32nd. So that tells me that Jimmy should have plenty of time to throw the ball. And like, in terms of any other week, I'd probably pick Joe. But like you said, I don't trust Denver's defense to allow for it to be competitive because most of their games are super low scoring. So I think if I'm just going to pick somebody outright, it's going to be Jimmy G. I wouldn't touch Justin Fields, but also, like we talked about playoff-wise, I'm not touching players like that.
Right. Next one here, 2 running quarterbacks. Taysom Hill against Tampa Bay or Jalen Hurts against Washington.
I mean, we got to take Jalen Hurts because he's playing clearly the better matchup. And first off, I don't know why everybody hates Jalen Hurts so much. I'm going to pull up his last few games and stats.
Because Gardner's so good.
Okay, so is Nick Foles. Does everybody remember how that ended? Nick Foles is like the 5th quarterback for the Bears right now. Okay, so for Jalen Hurts, in his past several games, Detroit, he only got 11 points, but that was a blowout, so I don't really expect the quarterback to get a whole lot. Chargers 16, Denver 19, New Orleans 30. And New Orleans, of those defenses, is probably one of the best ones, statistically. And then the Giants, it was 10, but that was a flop of a game. So to me, I still think I'm going to take Jalen Hurts. I think in terms of projections and consistency, he's better. I don't trust Taysom Hill yet. He had one good game and one horrible game. That's not enough of a sample size to make me take that hit or miss play.
So to counter argument that, because I think I would take Taysom. I've voiced it before. I'm not the biggest Taysom fan. I don't think he's a good NFL quarterback, but for fantasy, anytime he's gotten a start, he has never finished outside of a quarterback one. That top 12. And I get that the Tampa Bay defense looks scary, but they are allowing the third most points to the quarterback position. Now, again, counter argument to that, Washington allows the first most. But Jalen Hurts, I'm going to take the coach here for this because I think there's a higher percentage chance of Hurts getting sat than there is for Taysom to get sat. And the other thing is people worry about Taysom's finger, what they call it, the mallet finger or whatever. That's okay with me because he's going to throw the ball less and run more. And that's really where you're looking for your points here. And of course, Jalen Hurts has that same type of archetype, I guess, as a versatile running quarterback. So this is very close for me, but I think I go Taysom here just because I'm going to bet on him running the ball a lot more than Hurts will. Another question here. These are extremely close in my mind. Aaron Rodgers or Justin Herbert tonight against Kansas City. Again, Kansas City's defense has been playing extremely well, but Justin Herbert just passes the ball so much, and he looks good doing it. And not only that, he's been starting to run more. And coming into the NFL, he has a very good 40 speed. He is a quick quarterback. Now, he hasn't really gotten to use it or show it last year, at least. He was kind of still developing and getting used to the NFL and how they play. But he's been getting some good rush yards with him. So if we look at his game log here, last week, he ran 4 times for 19. That not bad. 1 time for 6 against Cincinnati. He didn't need to do anything that game. His wide receivers did everything for him. Denver, 4 for 36, 9 for 90 against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh just let him run the whole time. But that gives a nice floor for Justin Herbert. And, Aaron Rodgers, a good matchup again. So he has Baltimore. Baltimore, when you see the Baltimore name, I think a lot of people think, oh, fantastic defense. That really hasn't been the case, at least recently. They've been kind of getting dunked on quite a bit, and it's a little embarrassing. And then if Lamar doesn't play, which I really hope he plays, but if he doesn't, I just don't think this game is very competitive, and I don't think Rodgers is going to need to, chuck the ball as much. Whereas Herbert tonight against Kansas City, I think he's going to have to, one, throw the ball as much as he can, and then Chris Jones isn't playing, and that's going to allow him to rush more. So I think I go Herbert in this situation.
I agree. I think that comparatively, both quarterbacks are, if you have either one of them, they're top tier choices. I think, like you said, I think Herbert's going to have the better matchup to succeed. But what really concerns me is the Ravens are 31st in passing yards against per game. But then I look at the other stats. The Packers are 9th, and it's only a 50-yard difference. So in terms of fantasy, that 50 yards really isn't going to make or break the game unless you're super close. So I think we should look at touchdowns, opportunity for Justin Herbert, like you said, to run a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I think Herbert's definitely the better play because in terms of consistency, both are fair picks, but You got to pick the higher scoring matchup.
Yeah, and just to reiterate on how much higher scoring it is. So the Baltimore Green Bay matchup right now has an over-under of 43.5, which is unexpectedly low for these two teams. And then for the game tonight, Kansas City against the Chargers, it has a 52-point over-under. And honestly, I kind of lean towards the over for this game. I understand defenses have both been pretty good, but you have two high-powered quarterbacks, and I think they're just going to do whatever they want. So hopefully this should be a high-scoring game, and if that's the case, enjoy your Justin Herbert points. So assuming Lamar is out, this person asks, would you start Big Ben against Tennessee or Mac? Wait a minute. I'm pretty sure he just has this matchup wrong, but he says Mac Jones versus Green Bay. Let's just say Mac Jones, he's not playing Green Bay. He is playing... Who's he playing? He's playing Indianapolis Colts. So, Big Ben or Mac Jones?
I think Ben. I think Mac Jones has not been a great fantasy start at all. I mean, Why would you pick the guy that offensively the strategy is to not let him throw the ball? Now, granted, the weather was bad, but if the weather was bad in Pittsburgh, you know what Ben's doing? He's throwing for 60 times instead of 50 times. That's how dumb that team is. And it's a great opportunity because I think statistically Ben's not a bad fantasy quarterback. Even when he has bad games, he's still going to get over 15 for you. I don't know if that's going to happen with Mac Jones.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect that either. I think it's going to be a gritty battle against the Colts. Colts defense is also very good. I expect Belichick to be able to outcoach them, but I think a lot of these points are going to go to the running backs. It kind of always seems to go that way. They're third in points for the running back position. Harris might be out, but that doesn't matter. Next man up. Ramondre Stevenson has been solid. And if they're doing work, if the running backs are able to gain yards on every play, we've seen it against Buffalo. Bill has no problem giving the ball to his running back every single play, leaving Mac Jones kind of in the dust. Not saying he's a terrible quarterback or anything. I think he's quite a good NFL quarterback, but in terms of fantasy points, he's not going to get a lot here. So you're right. I think the move is Ben. Tennessee's defense hasn't been very good these past few games. And this is a must-win game for the Steelers here. I'm pretty sure if we lose this game, our playoff hopes are kind of just dead if they're not already. And Ben said, hey, he's focused on the now. He's focused on this season. He's focused on making playoffs. So, let's take a look at what happens here if we lose. So if we win this game, our chances of playoffs go from 15% to 24%. However, if we lose, it goes from 15 to 5%, at least mathematically. So again, this is a big game that the Steelers have to win, and they're going to put it on the shoulders of Ben, and hopefully his old body can can handle it. Let's switch positions here, Giggity. We're going to go to the running back position. We have 12-team, full-point PPR. Pick one to bench. So start three of these four. You got Aaron Jones against Baltimore, Myles Gaskins against the Jets, Josh Jacobs against Cleveland, Antonio Gibson against Philly. Pat, I'm pretty sure it's just Gaskin because he's unlikely to play.
Yes.
All right, easy one. So PPR pick two. David Montgomery against Minnesota, Clyde against the Chargers tonight. Why do you call him Jacobite? Javonte Williams against Cincinnati.
I think I'm going to bench Clyde. He hasn't really done anything the past few weeks, has he?
I think he had a decent game. I think he's been getting more involved in the passing work. Let's confirm. Clyde. Last week he had 19.2, week before 11.2, week before that 15.6. So that's like the running back 2 with upside in my mind. David, let's see how David Montgomery's done, because I think he's a very good running back that gets a lot of work. So in the past 3 games, 14.1, 28.1, 10.4. And Minnesota is allowing the 12th most fantasy points to the running back position. this game could be gritty. It's a divisional matchup, and both of these, it might end up being a defensive game. And that could mean a lot of running the ball, which would mean David Montgomery. And then Javonte Williams, I love Javonte Williams. I would love him more if Melvin Gordon wasn't playing. Denver's run game is just very good at this moment, and I might even say it's better than Cleveland's with the way they're kind of playing. So I like Javonte, but full point PPR, does he catch passes? Rush yards. Why won't you move over? Let's see. 1 reception. He got 6 the game before, but that's because Melvin wasn't there. But Pat, last 3 games for Javonte, 21.3, 29.8, 20.1 in full point PPR. So I don't think you can sit him even with Melvin Gordon there.
No, I think it's going to be Clyde because we just kind of alluded to it with the Justin Herbert thing. We expect this to be a high scoring game. Why would Clyde Edwards-Helaire be a part of that? Outside of maybe the beginning of the game to control possession, I don't see that. I think that David Montgomery gets more volume, even though his points haven't been as good because the Bears stink. And Javonte, like you just stated, is the best of the 3 as of right now.
Yeah. If it's going to be a shootout of the game, Clyde gets some targets. He's gotten 3, 3, and 2 in the past 3 games. But I think there's more opportunity for both Javonte and Montgomery. That's a close one, but I think I'm with you. I think I go David and Javonte. Or why can't you play both? What do you got in your flex? Yeah, that's a question that I think is worth asking if that's an opportunity for him. All right, pick 2. Similar question here, but instead of Javonte, it's Josh Jacobs. So David Montgomery, Jacobs, or Clyde. I think I sit Jacobs. I think Cleveland's rush defense is pretty solid. Yeah, they're allowing the 23rd most points to the running back position. Even though their offense is completely dead, apparently, their defense is not. And I don't like the Raiders. So I would start Clyde and David Montgomery.
I think it's fair to say.
All right, full point PPR, pick 3. So Eckler, he should play tonight. It kind of sounds like his workload is going to be a little lighter than usual given the injury. But Eckler tonight against Kansas City, Najee against Tennessee, Elijah Mitchell against Atlanta, James Robinson against Houston. Pick 3 out of those 4.
I guess the person that I want to start, but I have zero clue what's going to happen, is James Robinson. Because now that Urban's fired, I feel like at any time that someone leaves and something was wrong, the ship is always righted immediately. Like, to me, this feels like a game where James Robinson goes off and kind of sticks it to the other coaches. So I think for safety, because you don't know if that's actually going to happen, he would be the guy that I would bench for playoffs. But I would not be surprised if I'm absolutely wrong in doing that and he has a monster game.
Yeah, I love James Robinson. I'm going to be starting him in 2 matchups this week, and I have so much more confidence playing him now that Urban is gone. So James Robinson is in, Najee always in. So then it becomes Eckler or Elijah Mitchell. And that's tough because Eckler is, like we said, injured, and Mitchell is a San Francisco running back, which means he's going to be injured. So I think Mitchell has likely a better matchup and everything, but you're going to feel really bad if you bench Eckler and he goes off on your bench. So I'm not doing that. We kind of talked about, playoffs and everything. If I'm trying to score points here, Eckler's the dude. I'm going to take Eckler, Najee, and James Robinson. Full point PPR, Clyde tonight against the Chargers, or Sony Michel and or Darrell Henderson against Seattle. Pat, I think I want the Rams running back here. Their passing game is a little bit banged up, or maybe it's better because Odell won't be there. But they're a little banged up there, and Sony and well, really whoever the running back is for the Rams has looked pretty good, and Seattle giving up the second most points to the running back position. So I think I want one of those Rams running backs over Clyde.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that even if Sony starts, he's shown when he gets that type of volume, he's still fairly productive. So I think you're fair in picking that because the Rams should beat the crap out of the Seahawks.
Yeah, agreed. Run that ball into the dirt. Sony's looked good. And Sean said that he wanted a player with playoff experience, and that guy is somehow Sony. Sony was fantastic in the playoffs for New England, even though he did basically nothing during the regular season. So he seems to be a guy that you want to start right now. Pick one, full point, PPR, Ezekiel Elliott, Michael Carter, Javonte Williams. We just talked about Javonte, and man, I think I'm willing to start him over Zeke.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that Zeke has shown that, Dallas's offense is kind of balanced, and he doesn't need to be the number one. Like, I think when he was originally put on that team, he had Derrick Henry expectations, and it used to be that way because Dallas sucked. Sort of like Tennessee. Dak is better than Ryan Tannehill, and I think the Cowboys receiver core is much better than Tennessee's right now. So that's why Derrick Henry is allowed to flourish the way that he does. He's definitely a better running back, but it definitely allows for him to have an easier time getting like 200-yard games. I don't trust Zeke in terms of a high ceiling. Now, if I have to play somebody and I'm trying just to get like 10 points and like play it safe, then I'll probably pick Zeke. But other than that, I won't do it.
The only response to this comment is telling him to play Carter, and that guy's a dumbass. Carter hasn't played the past 3 games due to injury. You want to play him his first game back against Miami? No thanks. They've given up the 3rd least amount of points to the running back position over the last 4 weeks. So I don't know what that guy's talking about. Don't listen to him. Let's pop over to the wide receiver position. We are going to start with full point PPR. Mike Williams tonight against the Chiefs or Hollywood Brown against the Packers. I don't want to be caught holding the bag with Mike Williams if Lamar doesn't play. If Lamar's not playing, I don't have a lot of confidence in Hollywood. So I'll take Mike Williams tonight against the Chiefs. We talked about how high scoring this game is expected to be. And if that's going to be the case, all of the Chargers wide receivers are going to need to be involved. So I know Mike Williams has disappointed in the past, but it's all or nothing at this moment. And if that's the case, I'm taking him.
Yeah, I agree. I don't really trust the Ravens offense in this situation. And I don't know if Hollywood Brown to me is considered consistent by any standard. I think he's a very hit or miss player, so I wouldn't touch him at all.
Half point PPR, Devontae Parker against the Jets or AJ Green against Detroit. AJ Green looked really good last week, got 10 targets, and we now know that's because Hopkins was dealing with an injury. So Hopkins is out for the rest of the regular season. AJ Green should be the wide receiver 1 for this team, I would expect. Maybe on paper it might be Kirk, but the passing game for the Cardinals has been very good. And Detroit is not a scary matchup by any means. Now, Detroit has only, I say only, but they're middle of the pack here. They give up the 21st most points to the wide receiver position. And that's not because the wide receivers can't do anything against Detroit. It's because they don't have to. The team they're playing will get out to a lead and then run the ball. That's why they give up the 4th most points to the running back position. So Arizona can easily get up on the scoreboard and coast with, James Conner if he's in, or Chase Edmonds if he's back this week. So I think that puts a little bit of a cap on AJ Green, whereas Devontae Parker is now the wide receiver 1 for Miami. And, I've vocalized it before. I'm not the biggest Tua fan, but Waddle is going to be out this week. Devontae is going to be the guy and likely to absorb all of those targets. He's kind of the only starter they have left besides Gesicki. So if he's the only guy, maybe we expect him to get kind of hyper targeted. And if that's the case in a any type of PPR, I think I'm going to take Devontae.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that with Waddle not playing, that allows for him to have the perfect opportunity to get that target share. And Myles Gaskin also isn't available as well. So yeah. He's never been a bad play. I think he's been very underrated in terms of people thinking that he's crap because he's never lived up to that hype since, I'm pretty sure he's from Louisville. But I think when he came in, everyone thought he was going to be like this elite number one wide receiver, just never got there. But in terms of fantasy, he's always a great person to flex or stream because he's going to get at least 10 points.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people were let down by him because a lot of his points came when Fitzpatrick was his quarterback. And that's because of Fitzpatrick. He's not afraid to chuck the ball. And he's not a player that really passes to the wide receiver, tight end, all that. He's a classic type quarterback where it's him, the wide receiver. And he had a great connection with Parker. This guy, full point PPR, he's in the semifinals this week for his playoff run. And we got a start to Terry McLaurin against Philadelphia, DJ Moore against Buffalo, Michael Gallup against the Giants, Devontae Parker against the Jets.
I think for me, it's going to be Gallup and Parker. I think Gallup has shown that when he's healthy and available, it doesn't matter if Lamb and Cooper are both out there. He's still going to get targets.
Yeah, this is an interesting one because you would want to start Terry, I would think, because very talented, but the Washington offense has not really done it. It seems like their running backs are kind of their main focal point, which is cool because I really like Antonio Gibson. And I keep an eye on the injury reports, but I think McKissick is kind of trending to be back this week as well. Man, that's a tough one because Slay is a tough matchup for Heineke. So I think it's really hard to say, but I think you sit McLaurin. And then, to throw a starter in there, I like Devontae. We just talked about him. For all those reasons, I like Devontae. So then it becomes, who's the second guy? Is it DJ Moore or is it Michael Gallup? Now, this could be made easy for you if DJ Moore doesn't play. If he does play, it becomes a bit more difficult. And shit, I think I play Gallup as well because I don't trust any Carolina quarterback to pass the ball, and they have a very difficult matchup against Buffalo. So, yeah, at the beginning of the year, you would never say that. It would be McLaurin and Moore easily, but we're just at such a crazy point of the season, and here we go. Gallup and Parker, start them. Full point PPR, pick 2 and a flex, so pick 3. Jamar Chase against Denver, DK against the Rams, Cooper against the Giants, Gallup against the Giants, Van Jefferson against Seattle. So, wow. Okay, so Jamar, it's weird because Jamar should be an auto start, but Denver is very difficult. Russell Wilson apparently hates DK Metcalf now and is only buddies with Lockett. So I think I sit DK, which is, again, incredible to say here. If you have both Cooper and Gallup, I'm going to start Cooper over Gallup. There's more talent there. He's higher up in the depth chart. Technically number 1, even though we all know Lamb is the real number 1. So I think Cooper's in there. I like Van Jefferson as well without Odell against Seattle. So give me him. And then I think you got to play Jamar Chase. He is just way too talented. I know the matchup is tough against Denver, but I'm going to do it. If he again, it's another situation where if he goes off on your bench, you're going to be pissed. So I'm taking Chase, Cooper, and Jefferson.
Yeah, I think I'm going to take the exact same 3 as you, for sure.
Easy enough. Pick 1 half-point PPR. AJ Green, Chase Claypool, Devonta Smith. I'm not playing a Philadelphia wide receiver. I like AJ Green, but we talked about how he has a cap on his ceiling against a poopy team. But I also hate Chase Claypool. All right, Pat, you can go first. I don't want to do this one.
No, I hate Chase Claypool too. No,
no, that's good. The Chase Claypool.
No, again. I hate Chase Claypool too. It's hard to say that. Claypool too.
Claypool too.
Bowl.
Bowl. we need that just playing in the background.
Yes. Yeah, the more you say something, the weirder it sounds. So
the more I say Claypool, the more I hate him.
I don't know. They all suck.
Yeah, this is bad. Flip a coin between AJ Green and Claypool. If I had to bet, I would bet that Claypool has a better game, but it's like 60-40. All right, last wide receiver question. Pick 2. T. Higgins against Denver. KJ Osborne against Chicago. Cooks against Jacksonville. Julio Jones against Pittsburgh. I'm not playing Julio Jones. I don't want any part of the Tennessee passing game. It just hasn't looked good. I like Higgins a lot. I think he gets a lot of targets, even though, again, we keep talking about it. Denver, tough matchup, but maybe all of their focus will be on Jamar. Who knows? Either way, let's look at Higgins' targets the past few weeks. So past 3 weeks for Higgins in targets, 7, 14, 8. Jamar has had 8, 8, 3. So they throw the ball a lot. So if Joe Mixon is kind of getting shut down by Denver's defense, maybe they turn to the passing game more. I like KJ Osborne, but only if Thielen is out. Boy. So I'm going to go Higgins Cooks. But if Thielen is out again, I think I would do Higgins Osborne.
I think I'm going to do... I don't know if I trust Osborne. He's been way too hit or miss. I think I'll go with Higgins Cook.
Higgins Cook. So let's take a look at Osborne real quick. So just want to confirm my thinking. So in the 2 games without Adam Thielen, 17.3 points and 14.7. So those targets got to go somewhere. So in the past 2 weeks, again, without Thielen, he's gotten 9 targets and 7 targets. Whereas, of course, Justin Jefferson is just getting peppered, 14 and 15 targets. So, I mean, that's a lot of opportunity, and that's kind of my thinking. So I feel like Osborne is a ceiling play, whereas I think Cooks probably has that higher floor because who else are you going to throw to in Houston? And then let's end here on the flex positions. Scroll down. Full point PPR. This is the first week of his playoffs. Pick 2. Brandon Ayuk, Julio Jones. I feel like that's Emmanuel Sanders, but he's not playing. Sony Michel, Michael Carter. So pick 2 of those guys.
I think, as crazy as it sounds, I think Brandon Ayuk is somebody I'm highly considering just based off of the matchup. And if Sony Michel will be my number 2 guy if Darrell Henderson doesn't play. So I think it's based off of that.
Yeah. I'm not playing Julio. I'm not playing Sanders. Again, I think he's not playing, so that probably easily takes him out. I'm not playing Michael Carter. So, by elimination, Ayuk and Sony. I just to reiterate, I think I would still play Sony even if Henderson is in, still over those other 3 guys. Would you?
I don't know. I would consider Michael Carter, but probably just because when Darrell Henderson is available, I don't necessarily think Sony has gotten the volume needed to make it worth trying. With Michael Carter, the Jets are just so bad. I feel like it has more of an opportunity for him to have something. Because to me, it's stupid fucking thing. Sorry, I started talking over me. I couldn't hear myself think. Let me restart.
Okay.
You asked Sony Michel or Michael Carter.
Yeah. If Henderson is in, would you still play Sony over Carter?
If Henderson plays, I'm probably just going to do Michael Carter just based off of the fact that I don't think Sony has done much with Henderson available. And in reality, Sony Michel is probably the safer pick. But I just don't know if that's going to be the case. Or you play him hoping that Henderson leaves the game early, which we don't ever try to do that because that's such a shitty thing to do.
Yeah. Don't predict injuries. I guess the other thing is it looks like Tevin Coleman is coming back for the Jets as well. Are you worried about, we're talking about the split between Sony and Henderson. Would you worry that same deal with Carter and Coleman?
For sure. The Jets to me are very similar to San Francisco, where you have a bunch of guys and no one wants to step up on a consistent basis.
Everyone's always injured. All right, another flex question here. Full point PPR. Elijah Mitchell against Atlanta. Mike Williams against Kansas City. Brandon Ayuk against Atlanta. It's a pick 2. I'm sitting Elijah Mitchell. Give me the 2 wide receivers for full point PPR.
For sure.
Would you bench Zeke for Darrell Williams, Chuba Hubbard, or AJ Green in half point PPR? No.
Yeah, that's dumb.
10 point PPR. Pick 1. Chase Edmonds against Detroit.
He's on IR.
Yeah, so he's still not activated. So look into that. Damian Harris against Indianapolis. Again, he may not play. And then remember that this is a Saturday night game, which is weird. So be sure to get him out if that is the case. Brandon Cooks against Jacksonville. Julio Jones against Pittsburgh. I think it's Cooks.
Yeah, I agree. I don't trust anybody. And I think most people would probably pick Julio, but we haven't seen enough to make it worth it.
Yeah, their passing game is just deflated. And it wasn't deflated because A.J. Brown had left. It got deflated once their run game died. Once Henry got injured, everyone's like, okay, well, now they have to pass. And their backup running backs have been okay fantasy-wise, but I don't think other defenses fear them like they feared Henry. All right, bench 1 in half point PPR. Miles Sanders, Rashad Bateman, Foreman.
Dante Foreman from the Titans.
Gotcha. Well, yeah, so exactly what I just said goes there. Montgomery, you start. I hate all of this. This is gross. I don't want to play Bateman if Lamar's in. Even if he is in, it's still kind of questionable. I like him. I think he has a good future going forward, but he's fallen off. Sanders is always kind of tough to start because Philadelphia does some weird-ass rotation with their running backs, and Sanders always kind of seems to be at the butt end of it. So that's always difficult. And Deontay Foreman, like you said, is again difficult to start because he's likely splitting time with the other running backs, Hilliard and Jeremy McNichols. Now, do I care that Foreman's likely the starter? Not really. I mean, if we look at how it's gone, he had the most opportunities last week with 13 touches, 2 targets. Hilliard also got 2 targets, 6 rush attempts. McNichols got 8 rush attempts and 1 target. So, and if we look at how they were in terms of efficiency, Foreman got 14.2 points, not terrible. I feel like Hilliard had more. I'm way wrong. He had 1.3, but the 2 games before that, he had 19.3 and 16.2. And that was when I believe Foreman was injured. So it's tough. I think Foreman, I would still play him over Bateman. I would still play Sanders over Bateman, so I'm benching Bateman.
Yeah, I agree. I just don't trust any Ravens receiver, even if Lamar Jackson is playing. I don't trust him.
Yeah, the only receiver you would play for Baltimore is Mark Andrews. And then even then, flip a coin if that pass is going to be intercepted or not. But that'll do it for the fantasy episode here. You can check us out on YouTube, Sleeping with the Numbers. Please subscribe to our podcast, either on Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. We're pretty much everywhere. Google Podcasts, wherever you want to find us, wherever you wish to subscribe. We appreciate it, and hopefully we help you out with not just fantasy football, but sports betting in general. Also want to remind you, if you didn't make your playoffs and you're still itching to do some fantasy-related stuff, Monkey Knife Fight is here. If you use our link, you get your first deposit matched up to $100. And they do things by fantasy points, and it's really, really simple. You pick a couple players. You say, are they going to get over or under the set amount of fantasy points? You pick a wager, you win. Really is that easy. And again, if you're out of playoffs, but you still want to do some things to be involved with fantasy football, that's an easy way to do it. monkeyknifefight.com. The link is in our description.
Another thing you can check out from us is BarkBox. So BarkBox is a monthly subscription service that you can order for your dog, and you can get toys or treats or anything really. It comes in a monthly box, and each month it's a different theme. And if you're really into weird shit, you can let your kids chew on stuff too. I'm sure that they would enjoy it as well because it's 100% USA made jerky. It's probably cheaper than what you would get at the gas station. And honestly, my dog loves it. We get her the Super Chewer box. It's made out of super high quality nylon, so it's kind of hard for her to destroy, and she plays around with it all the time. So if you click our link, you'll get a free month.